And so it's taken me a long time to kind of get used to that. And then even then, some of the procedure and processes and things like that, I've had to go back and check with whips and people who.
I hear the crystal raindrops fall on the window down the hall, and it becomes the morning dew. And darling, when the morning comes, full of one knowledge worker, I feel a wave of loneliness, head back down, but I'm going too fast.
BBC News at midnight. This is Chris Aldridge. US forces have tonight hit targets near the Strait of Hormuz, saying the strikes were a response to an Iranian attack on a commercial ship in the strategically important waterway. Search and rescue efforts are ramping up in Venezuela, where two powerful earthquakes are confirmed to have killed more than 900 people. More than 50,000 others are feared missing. The UK has recorded its hottest ever June temperature for the third day in a row. President Trump's former National Security Advisor John Bolton has pleaded guilty to mishandling classified documents. Sir Keir Starmer has declined to sack the Immigration Minister Mike Tabb, despite being asked to do so by the Home Secretary. Also tonight, a final farewell to Radio 4 broadcasts on longwave. The US says it struck Iranian targets near the Strait of Hormuz tonight in response to an attack by Tehran on a commercial ship on Thursday. US Central Command says it targeted Iranian missile and drone storage locations and coastal radar sites.
The level of
for June was set in the UK for the third day in a row as heatwave conditions continue to affect parts of the country. The Met Office says a temperature of 37.3 Celsius was recorded at Santon Downham in Suffolk, topping the previous high of 36.7 Celsius in Somerset yesterday. Health leaders have warned that the unprecedented heat is having an impact on NHS services, as our health reporter Catherine Burns explains.
When you think about NHS staff going above and beyond in a heatwave, it's not just doctors and nurses. At St Mary's Hospital in London, the estates team have been taking turns doing shifts on the roof, day and night, hosing down the rooftop chillers with cold water just to keep the air conditioning on inside.
Essentially, keeping it continually doused with water is the only way that we can keep it cool enough in order to be able to keep it running.
That's Ian Bateman, the Chief Operating Officer at Imperial College Healthcare. He says staff and patients have been brilliant, but it's not been easy.
Inside the hospital, it's warm. We're doing our very best. We've got additional chiller units in and fans everywhere that we could possibly put them, but unfortunately it's still uncomfortable. We're keeping our temperatures under constant review and wherever possible moving staff and patients around to try and keep them as comfortable as possible. But I think it's probably fair to say it's pushed our buildings and it's pushed our staff to some really challenging limits at times.
Parts of this hospital date back to the 1800s, not built with climate change or air conditioning in mind. Health leaders are warning that the NHS isn't equipped for heat waves and needs investment to cope with what is becoming an annual event. NHS staff have been telling me what it's like for them. One nurse said her ward was like a wall of heat and called it intolerable. A midwife described mums and new babies struggling to cope with temperatures over 30 degrees in a postnatal ward. And an A&E doctor said the heating was still on in some parts of their hospital. They said staff were irritable and some patients were abusive. Amy Tompkins is a GP in Greater Manchester.
Like so many others, our practice is converted residential rather than purpose-built, and general practice has limited resources to be able to cool the environment. We have one air conditioning unit in reception, so several of the doctors have been taking regular breaks to go and stand out there throughout their clinics.
NHS England says its website pages on heat exhaustion have had more than 120,000 hits in the last 5 days. It says services are using well-tested plans to keep staff and patients safe, but is asking the public to use their common sense about being out in the heat and staying hydrated.
The German Weather Service has said the country has hit its highest ever temperature on record at 41.3 Celsius. As large parts of Europe swelter under similar conditions to the UK, our correspondent Anna Holligan sent this report from the Dutch seaside resort of Kite Down.